Are you ready to demystify React Router and explore its power in real-world applications? Whether you are navigating a single-page app or building advanced routes with Remix.js, this guide will make you understand how routing works. Hi, my name is Alex. I'm a senior software engineer with years of experience in JavaScript and Node.js. My goal is to help you become a confident and stress-free developer by increasing your skills and proficiency. Let's get started. React Router is a powerful library used in React applications to handle client-side routing. It allows you to create single-page applications or SPAs that navigate between different views or pages without requiring a full page reload. This is achieved by dynamically updating the UI to reflect the current URL. Key features of React Router include declarative routing. You define your routes as components, making the routing structure easy to read and maintain. Dynamic routing. It supports dynamic routes with URL parameters, enabling you to handle pages like view product by ID. The useParams hook allows you to access these dynamic parts. Nested routes. React Router allows you to define routes inside other routes, making it easy to manage layouts with shared components like headers or sidebars. Programmatic navigation. You can navigate users to different routes programmatically using the useNavigate hook. React Router has built-in hooks. They include useNavigate for navigation, useLocation to access the current URL, useParams to get URL parameters, useRoutes to create routes programmatically. Code splitting. React Router integrates seamlessly with a lazy loading, enabling you to split your application into smaller chunks and load components as needed. Error handling. It allows you to define fallback routes or error boundaries for handling unmatched routes or errors in your components. Here's a simple example of React Router setup. React Router enhances the user experience by providing seamless transitions between views and is a fundamental tool for building modern React applications. Let's take a look at how React Router works and how to configure routes on the example of Remix.js that is built on top of React Router.
Remix was created by React Router team, so routing in Remix is pretty robust. In this video, we will take a look at how to use Remix route files for different scenarios. We are in a Remix project configured with a Tailwind CSS. If you would like to learn how to configure Remix with a Tailwind CSS, please watch our Remix Tailwind CSS video. The root file in the app folder is the root layout for the entire app. All other routes will render inside the outlet. Root.tsx file works just like all other routes, so you can export loader, action, and etc. Let's create a couple of basic routes. All the routes go in a routes folder, so let's create _index.tsx file in the routes folder. We're gonna put the following code in here. Don't worry about the code too much. I'm just using some Tailwind CSS components. _index.tsx file will be the index page for the website. The leading underscore means we don't have any route part in the URL. Now in the routes folder, let's create about.tsx file. And we're gonna paste the code in here again. Finally, let's create the contact.tsx file. Let's go ahead, save all, and switch to the browser. As you can see, we have three basic pages: index, about, and contact. These pages don't have any common UI components or route parts in the URL. Now, what if we would like to have common layout? Let's go back to VS Code and create login routes. Usually, login routes have common UI component like an image, but they don't have common URL part. They sit right at the root like /login or /register. In order to create a common layout part for our authentication routes, login and register, we're going to create _auth.tsx file. And we're going to put the following code in there. The common layout for login and register routes will be this image right here. And login and register form will be inserted in outlet. Let's go ahead and create login route. In the routes folder, we're going to create a new file called _auth.login.tsx. We're going to paste the following code in there, and since it's spaced out under _auth.login, it will inherit the auth UI. Next, let's go ahead and create a register route in the same way. It's going to be auth.register.tsx. And just paste some code in here as well. Again, let's go ahead and save everything and head back to the browser. Let's go ahead, click on the login link right here, and now you can see we have /login, and if we click on sign up here, we have a /register routes. Underscore in front of the auth makes auth part invisible in the URL. Now let's say we actually want to have a common URL part as well as common layout. Dashboard routes can be a good example of that. Let's head back to VS Code and create some dashboard routes. First, in the routes folder, let's create dashboard.tsx file where we can define shared layout for dashboard. We also didn't put underscore in front of dashboard, so dashboard can be part of the URL. Let's go ahead and put the following code in there. As with the _tsx file, the dashboard.tsx file also has outlet where dashboard pages will be inserted. Now let's create dashboard index page. The name for that file will be dashboard.index.tsx. We used underscore in front of the index part, so word index doesn't show up in the URL, and we just simply have /dashboard. Now let's create a page for dashboard/team. The file name will be dashboard.team.tsx. As you may have already figured out, dots in the route file names translate into slashes in the URL. Let's go ahead and save everything and head to the browser. So now if we click on Get Started, we're gonna have dashboard page. And if we click on a team link in the header, we're gonna have a team page right here. Dashboard index and team pages have a common layout component. This will be this menu bar, and they also have a common URL part dashboard. Now let's see how list and a single item page translate to route file names in Remix framework. For example, we have a list of projects. When we click on one of them, we can see a single project page with more information. To make things a bit more interesting, we're going to put projects inside the dashboard. Let's head back to the VS Code, and in the routes folder, we are going to create dashboard.projects.tsx file. We will paste the following code in here. This is the common file for the projects pages. In our case, we just return outlet where other pages will be mounted. You, however, may also have a shared layout in this file as well. Now let's create an index page for the list of projects. So the file name will be dashboard.projects.index.tsx. I'm gonna put the code in here as well. When we click View button on a project, we want to go to that project. So let's create a single project page. All right, and the file will be called dashboard.projects.$id.tsx. And we're gonna paste the code for a single project page. In our case, ID is a dynamic segment. You create dynamic segments in Remix with a $sign prefix. Remix will parse the value from the URL and pass the ID parameter to the loader function, where we can access it on the params object. Let's head to the browser and take a look at the project pages. And as you can see, if we click on a projects link in the menu, we have projects page. If we click View button for each project, we can see the details of that project. So far, we looked at routes that don't have common layout and don't have common URL part, basic routes, routes that have common layout but don't have common URL part, login and register routes, routes that have both common layout and common URL part, dashboard routes. Now, what if we want to have a common URL part, but we don't want to have the same layout? For example, we may want to have dashboard docs that doesn't have a menu bar that is shared by other dashboard pages. Let's create such page in the routes folder. We're gonna call it dashboard_.docs.tsx. To break the page out of the common layout, we use a trailing underscore on the dashboard. Now, if we click on a docs menu, we can see the docs page has dashboard part in its URL, but it doesn't share a common dashboard layout. We already looked at how to match a dynamic segment such as ID in the route file. Now let's look at how to dynamically match the rest of the URL. This can be useful if we need to create a custom 404 page for our dashboard. In order to do that, we need to create dashboard.$.tsx file. The $sign will match all the URL parts except for the ones we already defined. This is essentially a dashboard catch-all route. In Remix, it is called a splat route. Let's paste the code for our custom dashboard 404 page. Similar to dynamic route parameters, you can access the value of the matched path on a splat's route params with a asterisk key. Now, if we go to the browser and in the URL we type something like dashboard hello world, we're gonna have our custom dashboard 404 page. This page has a shared dashboard menu bar layout. In this video, we looked at most common file routing use cases and how to implement them in the Remix. In order to better understand Remix routing conventions, you can use route visualization tool at https://remix-routing-demo.netlify.app. So just be sure you have a version 2 demo selected. In the previous video, we looked at Remix route files. In this video, we'll look at route folders. By the end of it, you will be able to better organize your code by collocating modules, simplifying imports, and automating code organization. Let's get started. We are in the project from route files in Remix video, where we created flat route files for the project. Let's refactor the file structure to add folder organization to the routes. In the app folder, we have a routes folder where all our routes are located and each tsx file is a route. Let's start with refactoring index route into its own folder. For that, we need to first create a new folder called _index, and we will just drop that .tsx obviously. So now let's go ahead and move _index.tsx into this _index folder. And finally, we need to rename the index.tss to the route.tsx. Let's do the same for about and contact routes. So again, create a new folder called about. We'll move _about.tsx into the about folder, and we will go ahead and rename about.tsx into route.tsx. All right, the same for contact route. So create contact folder, move contact.tsx into contact folder, and rename contact.tsx into route.tsx. The advantage of route folders is that you can collocate modules and components the route needs. Let's go ahead and create a contact-header.txx file in the contact folder. From the route.tsx, we are going to go ahead and take the contact form header. So we'll go all the way right here and cut it out. Now in a contact header.tsx, we're going to create a contact header component. Let's go ahead and put export default function contact header. And we're going to go ahead and return, put context, and we will put the header right here. Let's go ahead and click Save. Now in the route.tsx in a contact folder where we cut out the header, we will put contact header, and we're going to import it from the contact header.tsx. Let's go ahead and save as well. Now let's head to the browser, and as you can see, index, about, and contact routes, they still work as they used to after our refactoring. The folders directly beneath app routes will be registered as a route. Deeply nested folders are ignored, and this is what you may want. However, if you have a large app, it's not uncommon to have routes nested many levels deep. For example, we may want to have dashboard routes to have a deep nesty. Remix doesn't support this out of the box. To do that, you need to install package Remix Flat Routes. According to its documentation, Remix Flat Routes will always maintain compatibility with the default Remix convention. This package is simply a superset extension of the core convention. Let's go ahead and install this package. In the terminal, let's do npm install-d remix flat routes. That's going to be installed as a dev dependency. After installing the package, we need to configure it in remix config. So let's go ahead and open remix config file, and we're going to import flat routes from remix flat route. After ignored flat routes files property, we're going to put routes property and assign it async define routes function. Let's go ahead and save remix config file. Now we are ready to refactor our dashboard files. Let's start with the dashboard.tsx. In the routes folder, we're going to create a dashboard folder. We're going to move dashboard.tsx into the dashboard folder. And then we're going to rename this dashboard.tsx into underscore layout.tsx. Now let's create a new folder in the dashboard folder and call it underscore index. And then we're going to move dashboard underscore index.tsx into this underscore index folder. So let's rename this file to route.tsx. Let's go to the browser and check if the dashboard route is still working, and it is. Remix Flat Routes package uses extended route file names. In addition to standard index, route, page, layout names, any files that have an underscore prefix will be treated as the route file. This will make it easier to find a specific route. So if we rename the file route.tsx in dashboard underscore index files in, let's say, just main.tsx, and then if we head to the browser, we can see after refreshing that the dashboard goes away. However, if we put underscore in front of the main, right, we can go back to the browser again, and after refreshing the page, we can see that the dashboard page is showing again. So when you use Remix Flat Route package, you may use underscore to denote your route files. Let's go ahead and just rename underscore main.tsx to underscore route.tsx to follow our convention. Underscore will put the file in the beginning of the list, so it will be easier for us to find it if there are many files in a folder. I hope you got the idea of how to refactor route files in the nested folders. Remix Flat Routes package calls this approach hybrid routes. Let me pause the video and refactor the rest of the dashboard routes. After refactoring, your dashboard folder structure should look like this. We basically refactored every bit that is separated by the dot in the file name to a folder with underscore route.tsx as the route file. Besides hybrid routes, Remix Flat Routes package also enables you to nest folders with a flat files convention. You can create a folder but treat it as a flat file. All you need to do is append plus to the folder name. We can use this convention for auth routes. Let's collapse the dashboard folder, and in the routes folder, we're going to create a new folder and we'll call it underscore auth plus. Now let's take underscore auth.tsx file and move it into auth plus folder. Now let's rename underscore auth.tsx file into underscore layout.tsx. After that, we're going to take underscore auth login.tsx and move it into auth plus folder. And then we'll also take auth register and move it into auth plus folder as well. Now we're going to rename auth.login.tsx file into just login.tsx. And then underscore auth register, we're going to rename to register.tsx. So we collapsed our auth routes under auth plus folder. And since we added plus, these files will be treated exactly as they were, just the flat files. Let's head back to the browser and check if our login page and register page still work, and they still do. And this is how you can use folders to organize your routes in the Remix project. And I think this organization is more maintainable and easier to read. Remix Flat Routes package can give you even more options when you need a nested folder structure for your routes. So take a look at that package. In previous videos, we looked at Remix route file conventions and Remix route folders. These two techniques should be enough to cover pretty much all the use cases. However, if you want to have even more flexibility, you can use manual configuration for your application routes. After watching this video, you will learn how to use Remix.js to manually configure routes. We will use a slightly more complex example than Remix documentation shows. Almost every full-stack application at some point or another will need API routes. You can have webhook processing or JSON API for a mobile app that reuses server-side code with Remix UI. To make things more interesting, we are going to add manual route configuration for API routes to already existing route folder configuration that uses Remix Flat Routes package. In Remix project, in the app folder, I added API routes folder. This folder contains two folders, comments, and posts. Each of these folders have the same file structure. It has index.ts file that will return either a list of comments or posts. It has comment.ts or post.ts that will return a single post. And it also has a comments data and a post data where the comments or post data is taken from. Besides these two folders, in the API routes folder, I also have index.ts file. This file returns route not found response when somebody decides to call /API route. Now let's go to remixconfig.js file. In this file, we have route configuration that uses Remix Flat Routes package. Let's go ahead and update this file so we can also add a manual configuration for the API routes. Let's go ahead and update the routes function. We can actually use a shorthand, so we can put routes and update it like so. And then instead of returning the flat routes, we're going to return an object where we're going to be splitting flat routes like this. This will give us the ability to put definitions for our manual routes configuration. So let's go ahead and add to this object the output of define routes function, and we'll take a function with a route. And first, we're going to be defining the API route. We use API routes index.ts as a second argument. And remember, this file returns 404 route not found if someone decides to visit /API route. And the third argument is the function that defines posts. So /API/posts is handled by API routes post index.ts file. And as you remember, this file returns the lists of posts. Next, we define the route for post by ID. And this route will be handled by API routes post.ts file that will return the single post. Finally, we're going to define the comments for a single post route, and this route will be handled by API routes comments index.ts. In this file, we will check the post ID and return comments for that specific post ID. That's it for the post route. So let's go ahead and define the comments route. API routes comments index.ts file will return a list of comments. We use the same file to return comments for a single post or all comments. Loader function inside that file checks for post ID. If it exists, we return only comments for a single post. If it doesn't, we return all the comments. Under the comments, we define comment by ID route that is handled by API routes comments comment.ts file that will return a single comment by ID. Let's go ahead and run npm run dev. And as you can see, we got an error. It says unable to define routes with a duplicate route ID. API routes comments index. We used API routes comments index.ts for 2 routes, to get comments for a single post and to get the list of all comments. Remix complains that we have the same IDs for 2 different routes. Let's go ahead and fix that. We can fix it by passing a third argument that will be an object that defines the ID, and we can put a custom ID for that route. Let's call it comments by post. Let's go ahead and save. And again, let's try running npm run dev. Now, as you can see, everything is working. Let's go ahead and switch to the browser to make sure the folder routes are still working. Let's type localhost 3000, and we can still see about page, contact page, and then our dashboard. So everything is still working on this side. Now let's go ahead and switch to Postman, and first we're going to hit /API route, and the message is route not found as we expected. So let's go ahead and hit posts endpoint, and we get a list of posts. Let's get a post by ID. We get the post by ID. If we put the ID that doesn't exist, we'll get a response that the post is not found. Let's go ahead and check comments for the post of ID of 1. And we're going to return 2 comments. So let's go ahead and check the comments at endpoint. And if we hit it, we can see we get the list of all comments. And again, if we get a comment by ID, let's say 2, we get a single comment. So it looks like the manual route configuration for API routes is working. Manual route configuration can be a great tool if you want to customize your route structure. However, I think folder route approach should be used in most of the cases.
I hope now you have a better understanding of React Router and how to configure routes in Remix.js. If you like to learn more about how to use Remix with a relational database such as MySQL, please check out this video.